You're listening to Generation Jones, Too Young to Be Old, a podcast featuring conversations with remarkable people over 50 who continue to shape our world. I'm your host, Wendi Cooper, and I do hope you enjoy the show. Today, my guest is Bridget Long. Bridget is 55 years old and living her dream. But it wasn't always that way for Bridget. After losing it all at 46, including her children who were abducted during a custody battle and taken to the Middle East, she made it her life's purpose to be financially independent and have her family back together again. In only 8 short years, Bridget has accomplished her goal and now mentors others to do the same. Her story is truly remarkable. Today, she will share her journey and the tools she used to get through the darkness and into the light. Bridget is now the owner of BRIDGET Long Companies Limited in Poole, England, and that's where she comes to us from today. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Wendi, for your invitation and that wonderful introduction. Most grateful and excited to be with you.
Thank you. Well, that introduction is all about you, and your story is so remarkable and so fascinating and so honorable, actually. I think a really great way to kick off the interview is I'd like to start with a quote that you sent me in an email. So it goes exactly like this. Success is a subjective matter. And to me, those first years were all about working primarily on my inner journey in order to keep going, stay strong, whilst under some interesting levels of challenges. Can you tell our audience, let's give them a little bit of a backstory of your life, and then that will lead us to the remarkable place that you are today in your life.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you can probably hear, I am English. I live in a place called Poole in Dorset on the south coast of the UK. My home is literally, about 20 feet from the beach. And I was born here. But in 1989, at the ripe old age of 26, I followed a dream, and I have to say followed a man, and I went to live in Paris. I come from an entrepreneurial family, and all my life I've been pursuing, sometimes unconsciously, but mostly consciously, the idea of being a successful businesswoman, traveling the world, enjoying the finer things in life, and so on. And it was really, I suppose, in my mid-20s when I first accepted the fact that I wanted to move forward completely and wholly on that journey. So I was working in the travel industry and fell in love with Paris, and who wouldn't, right? And then, so I moved there in 1989, and I lived there for 22 years, became the mother of 3 gorgeous children and 2 partners later, 2 businesses later, one in hospitality. I bought a restaurant, and then I was for 15 years in the clothing and manufacturing industry. And in 2010, I really was asking myself some pretty deep questions, almost existential ones, because I felt that I had really put my entrepreneurial dreams and goals to a backseat to focus on my children's education and upbringing, which of course I don't regret, and it was wonderful. But as a result of that, I was very vulnerable financially. And I would say that I really lacked confidence and belief in myself because I had, really relied on someone else for resources, for money, and for support for so long.
What's interesting, Bridget, is I hate to interrupt you, but you start off by telling me how you went to Paris when you were 26.
Yes.
I went to Paris when I was 27.
No.
Yes.
Okay, so brilliant. So yeah, so you understand completely why then. I mean, it's not difficult to. You don't really have to explain that kind of thing, do you? You know,
Well,
I mean, what is there not to love, right?
well, there's a little bit of an argument I can have about loving Paris. Of course, you love Paris, right? But the
Yeah.
life was so. I had worked for Club Med in the Bahamas, and I had actually met a geo that came there to teach tennis for 3 weeks, and he was from Paris. And Didier didn't speak I spoke no French. He spoke no English. It was the ultimate language of love, and I was young, and I took off with no money and one small suitcase, and I went to live with him in Paris.
Perfect. Well done, Wendy. Oh my goodness me.
It seems to me that that's obviously where you met the father of your children. Is the father of your all three of your children the same father?
No. So one, the eldest is from my first relationship, and the two youngest are from my second relationship. And so it was my second partner, the young father of my two youngest, that after a 15-year relationship in 2010, I would say it's a bit of a cliche, Wendy, but living in a bit of a golden cage. Um, we had a very pretty luxurious lifestyle. My children were all in private schools, and we had holidays in Monte Carlo, and I had the designer wardrobe, and I mean, the trappings were there. But I suppose, what one might call poverty of the soul, because sometimes one thinks from the outside that this is the ideal life, but inside I knew I wanted more.
I can so relate to those situations in life where your soul is empty, but your purse is full, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what it was. And I still hadn't really figured out what I really wanted, but I was figuring out what I didn't want.
So what was the
And
catalyst for that? What was, I mean, so you're
oh,
living
a
you're
great
living this,
question.
yeah, this you're living this incredible lifestyle, and and then all of a sudden, what's that tipping point that happens?
Well, very, very simple, because there was a distinct catalyst, and that was I had a cousin who was my age, who was like more than a sister to me. I loved her, you know, a friend, a sister, a cousin, just, we loved one another. And she passed away from cancer. And she had three young children, similar to my own children's age. And I thought that could have been me. Get a life. What I started thinking about what I could do. No qualifications. I'm now 46, going on 47. I'm out to pasture. I totally unemployable in any way. Why on earth would I want to be employed? It's just not in my even my possibility of thinking. I needed a business.
Oh, how did you manage to find one, or did you?
I found a course that I absolutely loved, but it wasn't just about image consultancy. There was a life coaching element to it as well. And so I remember I ordered all the materials. It was an online course with a couple of live workshops involved. And I ordered all the materials, and that's when things started to go very wrong in my home life, because I was told I was going into the wall, and all these things were going to happen to me. And of course, it was very, very unstabilizing. But by that time, I'd made my decision, and I was determined to do something.
So
And
was
yeah,
it this course that set you, excuse the expression, but on course? Because I,
I
I
think so.
I truly know what it's like to live in an environment where no matter what you want for yourself, it's not possible. Like, your dreams are always squashed, and when you live in that energy, you start to believe that, right? You start to really say, well,
Yes.
it's really not possible. I'm really not worthy. I can't do that because I have all this noise coming from around me telling me that you just can't do it.
I think that there was an element of that, but I think the main two elements was, one, I'm going to do it anyway. There's a great book which I stumbled across early on, which was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So I was like, I'm absolutely scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. And the other bit was fear of, around my family. because I knew that this wasn't going to go well. But I did make the decision probably at the tail end of 2009, and by the beginning of 2010, one day I just plucked up the courage and I said, I've had enough and it's over. And one of the required books for the course was How to Change Your Life in 7 Days by a British coach and hypnotherapist called Paul McKenna. And I remember reading this book and thinking, well, he wrote this book for me.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know who this guy was. And, it was only much later I discovered what a mega superstar he was all over the world and so on. And these life coaching principles that were within this book, it was a real revelation, because I had no idea that even this kind of stuff really existed before.
Right. How could you? You're in that bubble, right?
Yeah, but completely, Wendy. Yeah, completely. So it was kind of like a domino effect of various events, and then between the February of 2010 and the July, the house was put on the market. The business was put on the market. I had all the placatory, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine, it's okay, I understand, you can have half, blah 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 blah. And I was like immensely naive, and B, I was also trying to keep the peace, because I didn't want there to be turmoil in front of my children. That was something that was an enormous source of suffering, because I didn't want them to suffer too much. Anyway, the house was sold in the early July, and he said, okay, right, well, now that the house is sold, I'm going to take the children on holiday to see my family for 4 weeks in the summer holidays. You can do what you want. See you when we get back. And once again, because I was very much in the placatory role, I didn't want there to be, scenes. I said, okay, just, take them on holiday. I knew they would have a great time and they'd be really well cared for. And that gave me a little bit of space to get myself organized, because then of course, I needed to find somewhere to live and so on. And he never came back. It's as simple as that. He got there, and 2 days later he rang me and said, I'm ringing you to tell you I'm never coming back. And in the meantime, he had persuaded me to vacate our family home under the pretense that some of his family were coming to stay. So I'd moved out to a girlfriend's house, and he had organized for the whole house to be barricaded up. All my possessions, personal possessions, in all fairness, he did send them to my mother, but everything else was dumped out on the front, in the front yard. And it was barricaded up, and I couldn't get back into the house. So I was made homeless at the same time.
And now, how old are you when this happened?
46.
Oh my God. I'm
So
sorry.
8 years ago. So I've got this phone call. I've driven around to the family home, because, as I said, I'm staying with my friend, and I'm stood outside. It's a blistering hot day at the beginning of August. An eerie silence. It was I seem to. You could almost hear the silence, and standing out there, there's piles and piles of clothes and photos and kitchen equipment, everything just piled up in front of the house. And there's this great big military door on the front of the house, and all the shutters are barricaded up, and it's impenetrable. And that was me. I was done. And I then had to, well, of course, you go into shock. Initially, you don't believe it. You think it's bluffing. You think it's a joke. And so on and so forth. But eventually, after 3 or 4 weeks, and I kept ringing and ringing and ringing, and he wouldn't pick up. And in the end, he said, do you not understand what I'm saying here? I'm not coming back.
I'm just sitting here right now, and I'm standing in front of this place that you have described, and I am looking around, and I am seeing, oh my, whoa. It's one thing for that to happen to someone when they're much younger, right? You're more resilient, you bounce back, you find ways to get over it, or maybe you don't have children. But when you're in your 40s, mid 40s, for that to happen, now your story is even that much more remarkable to me. Okay.
It was terrifying, but at the same time, people will make massive life decisions based on desperation or inspiration. And of course, I was in a position of desperation, and on the back of that, there's only one way. You either, it is sink or swim. It is sink or swim. And at the back of that, still a mother of 3 children. They're still alive. They're just not here. And I had one goal, entire goal, and that was to reunite my family. Come what may, no matter what it took, I was going to do it. And however long it took, I didn't care. I'm a mother, and honestly, I'm not really a hero, because any mother would have done what I did. It's our secret weapon. A mother's love is unconditional and invincible.
Yes, well, there are people out there though, Bridget, that, abandon their children and they really don't care about their children. Not all mothers
Well,
and fathers. I mean, I have
yeah,
a,
I mean, I think that at the base of it, it's not because they don't care. It's just because you need so many mental and emotional resources to keep going. And so it's not really, some people just don't have that inner strength. And this is where my work on myself came in, because to peel my back off the mattress every morning, for years and years, and dread the mail coming through, because I never know what kind of a letter I'm going to get, either from the lawyer or the social services or the education services or the police or a judge, or, I mean, every single week there's something. And you have to be able to stay mentally strong throughout that. That's where the real challenge is, and not to give up.
yes,
Uh,
I completely understand that.
yeah,
Our lives are very interestingly parallel. So I do understand where you're coming from, that the
yeah.
knock on the door, the service of a legal document, the
Yes.
trying to get divorced from a man that, won't even show up in court, and then, it won't show up in life, and then it doesn't show up in court to even divorce
Yeah.
you. So okay, so life got to the point where it was kind of a little crazy. You, just to recap a little bit, when did you start, was it before that happened to you that you started this life coaching system that
Well, I was doing the course. I was in the middle of the course.
okay, good. So
I
you
was
were
in the middle of the course, and I qualified. Miraculously, I handed in all the papers, and I passed with honors. And I think that was about 2 months after they'd gone. And so we're talking about early autumn or early fall, yeah. And so that was, and then I started to put things together and try and build a clientele. And of course, I'm desperate, and I'm so sad, and I'm crying all the time, and then I'm getting up in the day and trying to pull myself together to get out there and make some money, because I had a little bit of money squirreled away. But it was going fast, right? Real fast, because I'd rented another house, and I had expenses, and there was nothing coming in, so I could see the money draining away quickly. I was like panicking. I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And then I came to the realization. I think it was about probably in the November of 2010, and I was like, I'm never going to make it financially. I'm never going to be able to generate enough income quickly enough. I'm going to run out of money.
now you're still in Paris. You're still in Paris at this time.
I'm still in Paris. I've rented another house. I rented a family house because I was like, there's no way they're not coming back. I'm renting a house, but every one of them's got a bedroom. I just was in complete denial, but my money was draining away. I had very, very little income, or none. And then suddenly one day, I mean, it really was like one of those, those moments when you go hot and cold and you feel all sweaty, and it's just like, and your throat goes dry, and your heart is pounding. And I was like, I'm going to run out of money. I need something else.
And so that took you to
And so within about a week, somebody came and spoke to me about my direct sales company. And at that time, of course, I didn't know that was going to be my lifeline. I just saw it as, but I was open, and I suppose I don't think I was consciously looking for something else, but I knew that I was going to run out of money. and and so I took a look at the technology, which I immediately thought, well, I can actually sell this technology to my clients, my image consultant clients. This is a great add-on. Because at that point, 25 years in traditional business, that's all I knew. You buy a product, you sell it for a profit, you put the profit in, you pay some tax, and the rest you keep.
mhm.
That's how business is done, right? So that's the business model I knew in my head. I had no idea how to build a direct sales business. But I could see that the technology, that was my first thing, really was very unique, and it was outstanding and efficient. It worked.
And did you get that knowledge from or where did you derive that knowledge from? Did you get it from this coaching life coach system that you took, or was this something that you maybe had an innate skill within you that you didn't even realize you had that came to the surface?
Maybe I think maybe I have a strong intuition. I think we all do. We all have a strong intuition, and I think when you're in a place of absolute desperation, that's when you become much more conscious and you connect to it more easily, because you can't, your mind is basically paralyzed. So, and that's actually quite a good thing, because when your mind is paralyzed, you make decisions from the gut rather than from reasoning, and gut decisions are always the right one.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I just listened
Yeah,
to something the other day, and they were talking about the gut and the heart, and and
yeah.
our decision making powers, and where they come from, and they don't. It was called something like "Listen to your heart. Your brain is stupid." It
Okay.
was
Oh, yeah,
it, it was
exactly.
fascinating.
Yeah, thinking is highly overrated.
Or being logical, it's like I am at the most.
Sure.
I am not a logical person, right? I always think creatively, or I think from my heart, or I think from my gut, and I don't think logically. And uh sometimes I feel as though that's a fault that I might have, but at the end of the day, not so much. Not so
I
much.
think I think really that is really where, if we allow ourselves to be guided by our inner self, that's when the true self emerges, and that's when we make the best decisions. And they don't always seem like that right off, because as soon as you make that decision based on that, your mind will kick in going, oh, this could happen, that could happen, this could happen, this. So of course sometimes we change our minds after having made an initial gut decision, because the reasoning side of things just doesn't add up.
And
But
then there's also
yeah.
the theory out there um, that procrastination is really, yeah, procrastination obviously is fear of execution and fear
Sure.
of doing something, but procrastination is something that it doesn't. I was listening to something the other day, and it was saying just do it. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
perfect. It doesn't have to be excellent. You just have to do it, and then
Yeah.
and then see what follows, and that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
always fine tune from there. But I'm
I mean, it just on that actually, just as an add-on, yeah, on procrastination, it is. I have a thing when I know I'm procrastinating. I just say to myself, "Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now."
Mhm,
And I was like,
mhm,
"Okay, I'll do it now."
I did that. I
And
did
that,
that. I did that the other day. I was like, I listened to this thing saying that procrastination was whatever I just said, and I
yeah.
and I and I drove home because I was walking when I was listening to this. I drove home and I said, okay, I'm going to do it, and I just did it. And it's such a good feeling, it's a number one.
Yes.
I think it's a wonderful feeling to listen to ourselves and to be self-aware and to
Sure.
understand that we do get to a certain point in our lives, and that we really can't listen to the noise anymore. We can't listen to people telling us what to do, when to do it. I lived a life, and it seems like you also lived that same type of life, where so many people are always telling me, you know, uh, get off the cloud. What are you doing up there again? Why are you thinking like that? And it's like, well, that's who I am. It's who I am. And I cannot. One of the reasons I'm probably doing this podcast is to share these stories of people like yourself, that the story is always different, but the end result is really always the same. We become self-aware, and then we start to take action on what is truly in our soul and not in what is surrounding us.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I think that, as young children have this huge creative capacity, and then you get funneled into school, and then you have to be pigeonholed into a this or that particular type of profession, and then you're expected to do this or that exams, and so on, the rest of it. And little by little, all that creativity is drained out of us. And I think really, so when we get, jolted into, or triggered, as you said earlier, into a situation that demands us to call on our creativity and our instinct, we can really call on that, because it never really goes away. It just gets buried under a whole pile of crap, if you don't mind me saying, that we're taught in school. Whoops. and which, which drains our self-confidence. And I think that, when you get something that jolts you out of that, you go back to that creativity, and then add in a few, work on yourself to get that confidence back, and then miracles happen. That's really, and then things really, really do happen, that's magical. And then you end up meeting people like you, and then people come into your life, and you start becoming very vibrationally attractive, and then somebody comes with a gift, and you don't always see it as one, but you kind of, your gut is telling you go for it, and really that's pretty much what happened. And also from a more left-brained point of view, once I'd seen what was possible in terms of this direct sales business, I knew that this was going to be my lifeline, and that I had nothing else, and I had to do it. I did not make the decision because I really wanted to do it. I did it because I saw it as the only possible way that I would be able to have complete financial independence and to reunite my family. There was no plan B. Absolutely, one step back and I was off the cliff.
Okay, so let's talk about, so is that Bridget, that's your Bridget Long company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 3 branches to it. So I have my direct sales business, which is my main business. Then I have a little bit of commercial real estate, and I also have some financial investments.
Okay. So when you say your direct sale business, is that, I see
Yeah.
that your email says New Skin. Is that the
Yeah.
New Skin business?
Yes.
As
Yeah. I am.
New
So
Skin.
I have a contract with New Skin as a distributor, and I have a global distribution network. We're now in 22 countries. We turn over a couple of million a year, and I've done that in 7 years.
So New Skin, from my recollection, because New Skin was very big here in the US, and New Skin is a type of network marketing, correct?
It is. Yeah. Direct sales, network marketing, same difference.
And well, actually, that's my background, is direct to consumer marketing. And here in the US, we consider network marketing to be something different than what we call direct to consumer marketing.
Okay.
So
My mistake then.
it's not a mistake. It's just probably, culturally, we just call it 2 different things.
Yeah.
But there are some fantastic companies, such as New Skin, Shackley, Tupperware, actually. They all,
Amazing.
yes, they all give these opportunities to people. So can you talk a little bit about how you started out with New Skin, and then how you parlayed that into Bridget Long companies?
Okay, well, it's not difficult. The technology, which is the handheld miniaturized facial device called a galvanic spa, was run over half of my face. So I had half a face that looked youthful and refreshing, and the other half that looked pretty old and haggard. And I was like, well, every self-respecting human being on the planet's going to want one of these. And that's really how it all started. And then I went to a big convention in Paris in 2011, and that's where I got my light bulb moment. I was like, hang on a minute here. What is this? This is really magical. And then I just thought, I thought I believed in myself, which I kind of did, but I had to really dig under the rubble to find that belief. But I was just like, okay, this is what it is. So I just literally took that technology, I put it in my bag. I had to come back to the UK because I had run out of money in the spring of 2011. I was on the bones of my derriere financially, and I just literally, excuse the term, I pounded the pavements. I knocked on doors of all the health and beauty professionals that I could find, because I knew with the technology that I had was so different, and that the entry level was very low, whereas most of them find, when they want to use new technologies, it's very high. And I just did demo after demo after demo after demo, and I started building my network that way, just by talking to people and showing and demonstrating the technology.
Well, basically, what you did was you where a lot of people go wrong, I think, is that they don't want to put the work in.
Oh, like 100%. It's called network marketing. That's the little clue. And but I was so driven by this desire to get financial independence and reunite my family. No matter how exhausted I was or how many hours I'd done, I'd still do more, because I knew that unlike any traditional business that I've been in for 25 years, whether it be part-time, whether it be, in the background or full-time, the problem with traditional business is that it's not scalable globally unless you've really got loads of resources, and that there's no time freedom. And I wanted to create a business asset that when I did reunite my family, which was a no option, I would have complete time freedom as well to give the time I wanted to my family whilst still having money coming into my bank every month.
Well, that's the great thing. That's the great thing about network marketing, is that it's just basically residual income after a while.
It is after a while, but you have to be prepared to lay the foundations, and that is grind. It's no grind, no glory. And I was prepared to do whatever it took, work, the 16, 18, 20, 22-hour days. I did 13 presentations back to back one day. I will never forget that as long as I live. The poor person who got the 13th presentation, they didn't have a clue what I was talking about. I was drunk from fatigue. They're those kind of things that, and I just thought, I don't know if I can go on. And also, but every time I would come back to what they call your why, and my why was to be financially independent, never to rely on anyone else again on money as long as I live, and to have time for myself and my family.
There's something else that you wrote in the email that you sent me, and I wanted to quote you. It's, everyone has a story, and it's a falsehood to compare one to the other. We all react differently to whatever life throws at us. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Rohn says it even better. It's not the wind in the sails; it's how we set the sails. And I meet some people who are completely bowled over, but by something that I would class as trivial. And then you'll see somebody who has had every single unimaginable obstacle thrown at them, whether it be a physical disability or the loss, literally the death of a child or whatever it might be, and they're still going strong. So I think that really it is about compassion and tolerance. It is about every person is doing the best they can with whatever they know, and that includes people who have, from the outside done me wrong, but all I know is that that person was just doing the best they could with whatever they knew at that time. And I think being able to forgive, be non-judgmental, always show compassion and genuine loving kindness. Doesn't matter what these people have done or how people react to what might seem trivial in my life. We're not them. We're not in their heads. And so it's important to say that, people say, oh, look what you've done. And I was just like, I was just trying to save my life. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was just trying to save my life. And the second thing is really everybody reacts differently, and we really need to just appreciate not everyone's going to cope in the same way.
Well, they say that, you don't see the light until you're in the darkness.
Do this and yeah, that's probably about it, really.
Right. You really don't see the light until you're in the darkness. If you're always in the light, and you never fall. We must fall in order to grow and to really become our true selves. If people want to get in touch with you, can you tell people where to get in touch with you? I see your email, but I'm not sure if it's the right one, so you need to tell everyone.
Okay, so my email is Bridget, BRIDGET, at Bridget Long Companies. So it's BRIDGETLONGCOMPANIES, BridgetLongCompanies.com. Or you can Facebook message me. I have an open profile, Bridget Long, BRIDGETLONG. And I'm also contactable on LinkedIn. And on Instagram, it's Bridget J for Jane, Long. So very easy. I'm really easy to find. You can just Google me and I come up. I was Direct Sales Winner of the Year in 2017. So I come up under the Direct Sales Association as well. So, I'm very easy to find, and I'd be delighted, even if it's just to have a conversation, to connect. I'm expanding in America. I love America so much, and I really want to spend more time there. So I'd be delighted to connect with anybody.
Well, I would love to see you if and when you do come here. And congratulations on all your successes, and congratulations on having your children back, and congratulations on just being an awesome human being. Seriously.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute joy. I've adored spending this time with you, Wendi.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it, like it, and review it everywhere you get your podcasts. If you have a suggestion or would like to tell your story, please visit generationjonespodcast.com and send me an email. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.